disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Fantastic Days Bar. So, the election in the United States, even though we're a week out from the President-elect Donald Trump winning that election, it has put a lot of people on edge, has caused a lot of people on turmoil. But I think more so, it has put a lot of Canadian politicians on edge, considering the fact that this kind of mega, whether you call it a revolt or this kind of mega movement or, the Trump effect is now causing a pariah to so many people that that people within Justin Trudeau's cabinet are worried about their upcoming election, and it's putting a lot of worry behind the Liberal Party here. So even just taking a look at this is from the Abacus polling data, and this is just a recent poll. This is from, I think, October 22nd of this year. So just before Trump got elected, Conservative Party was up to 44%, and they lead 22% overall over the Liberal Party. And that is concerning for this party. It's concerning the fact that you have this polling data. They're losing a lot of their own by-elections that they've really put a lot of gamble on towards. They thought they were going to have a secure seat in a lot of these ridings that ended up turning blue. And on top of now Trump winning this election, now they have to confront themselves, and they're still in denial of the just utmost atrocity they have done to the country, their horrific policies, and they're just disconnect from the reality of Canadians, that most Canadians are just sick and tired of the bureaucracy. They're sick and tired of the red tape. They're sick and tired of just the endless empty gestures, the lies, the platitudes that they throw at them when you have 10 cities across major metropolitan areas. You have people lining up at food banks. There's food scarcity. There's people that are dying off in the streets. There's chaos among all this. And on top of that, with high inflation, cost of living, they're siphoning that tax dollars to send overseas to continue warfare for a country that's still trying to remain its peace aspect. We're supposed to be a peaceful nation. We're supposed to be the peacekeepers, and yet somehow our tax dollars had to be subverted towards the military-industrial complex for endless warfare. And we become even more militant as years go on. So it is absolutely concerning to many individuals, including Chrystia Freeland. And even though she tries to put on that bright face and went on to election night and say, oh, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be fine, just don't worry about it, Canada's going to be fine, and, do the head shakes, she knew she's nervous. She knows that people like her and Melanie Joly, who's next to her, the foreign affairs minister, are petrified of this Trump effect, the MAGA movement, the conservative following in Canada is going to topple their regime. It's going to topple their pillar of the oligarchy, and they're going to be challenged on this. And so much so that I think Chrystia Freeland is starting to get spooked about this. And take a look at this.
You mentioned pension executive. You mentioned
what's the plan? Are there going to be more CBSA guards at the border? What are you going to do about the increasing strength there?
So this is supposed to be a press conference on border security, because one of the things that they worried, the RCMP put out that they're worried about border crossing. They're worried about all these illegal immigrants that Trump promised to kick out and export away from America, that they might end up in Canada. And obviously border security is a top priority issue of this nation. I wouldn't, doubt it, that people are concerned about border security concerning that. And they should be. And Chrystia Freeland has no idea what to do. So she goes into this frenzy little panic there. You could see her just moving back and forth, doing dry heaves on stage. and in just utter panic mode. Look again.
You mentioned exactly. You mentioned.
What's the plan? Are there going to be more CBSA guards at the border? What are you going to do about increasing strength there?
So she knows she's in trouble. She knows that she's in trouble. Or maybe just, lost from Betty Ford Clinic. Maybe get her a straitjacket and send her off her way. Wow. I always wanted to know what the little girl from The Exorcist turned out to be. The awkward discern. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't have control. I think I had a bank account to freeze so I can cool down a bit. This is just. I also want to play it again because that was just hilarious.
You mentioned.
What's the plan? Are there going to be more CBSA guards at the border? What are you going to do about increasing strength there?
So they knew that they're in trouble. They know that they're in trouble. They know that their empty platitudes are not going to save them. And here's the Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, also knowing that she's in trouble, knowing that the empty platitudes, knowing that almost a decade now of power for people like her and Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau are going to topple, the more and more people are awakened to the fact that these pretty-faced liberals, to paraphrase Jane Fonda, these pretty-faced liberals are not to be trusted. They were never to be trusted, and now they're going to face their consequences. And here is Melanie Joly, Foreign Affairs Minister, first of all, still trying to compare Pierre Poilievre to Donald Trump and calling him, fascist, Hitler, anything like that. How, the Conservative Party is just an absolute atrocity to Canada because they don't support things like Ukraine. They don't support the LGBTQ agenda. That's not going to be effective enough to garner votes. That's not going to be effective. Just the pettiness of both opposition parties going back and forth, whereas at least Pierre Poilievre is taking the initiative to at least talk about measures of economics and, axing the carbon tax and getting money back to the pockets of families so they can provide more, put a roof over their heads, make sure that, we have affordable housing available for Canadians, and really fundamental policies that most Canadians can get behind. But here is Melanie Joly just completely disconnected from that.
Often in question period and in your online materials that come from the Liberal Party, you compare Pierre Poilievre and his conservatives to Donald Trump, to the MAGA movement. Do you have to knock that off now that Donald Trump is going to be in the White House and MAGA may control every level of the U.S. government? You're relying on relationships. Can you keep using that as a weapon politically against the opposition?
Well, so I think that the Canadians know the Liberal Party and our values. But I think that what we need to reckon is something that I'm seeing across the world, David, and I'm being very frank with our viewers right now. I know that people are angry. I know there's frustration. We're all frustrated when we go and buy our groceries.
Do you? Do you understand the frustration? Because it seems like the more people are frustrated, the more you want to censor the people that are frustrated, causing more frustration. Because if you actually gave a damn about people's opinions and their anger of why they feel betrayed by the government, you wouldn't need to censor them. You wouldn't need to censor them. But she wants to censor them to hide the fact that it's obviously glaring to people that her wrongdoings, Chrystia Freeland, Justin Trudeau, Theresa Tam, any member of parliament, screwed a lot of these people, screwed the country and a lot of the working class people of Canada to the state that we're in right now. And that's why they're losing a huge chunk of voters towards the opposition party, because at least the opposition party is willing to at least acknowledge the problems at hand when it comes to lineups at food banks, when it comes to housing crisis, when it comes to tent cities, when it comes to crime, among big metropolitan areas. But as for her, it's just petty arguments. It's just her just trying to cause a schoolyard fight to call Pierre Poilievre this bully when she is the one actually antagonizing against Canadians.
Groceries, and I was looking at just buying a pound of butter over the weekend. It's nearly $9 in Montreal. So
yeah, if you understand that a pound of butter is $9 in Canada, and I just went to the store the other day just for basic essential groceries for me. I think I got like maybe 2-3 bags, just the regular bags full. It almost came out to $100 for one person. Imagine if that was a family of 3 or a family of 4. Imagine the debt that people have to put themselves into just to feed their families, let alone put a roof over their heads, let alone pay for electricity, pay for their, car to gas up, to go to work, to hopefully work themselves to a sweat to pay off this debt. And if she really cared about it, again, you're in a position of power. You're in a position. You're held responsible. Maybe do something about it. That's what is so frustrating. And that's why people and Canadians are so angry at people like her, because she can go on these shows and talk about how the cost of food is skyrocketing, how things are horrible in Canada. Look at Justin Trudeau. He went on to podcasts. He went on to Stephen Colbert. He knows his economy is screwed up. He knows how bad it is for Canadians. Is he going to do anything about it? God, no. God, no. But he'll go on and feel the sympathy. Oh, I feel so bad right now. These young people, they will never, ever be able to afford a home, let alone rent an apartment. I feel so troubled by these people. That's why I'm doing everything to sit on my ass and my throne and continue creating more problems instead of actually coming to solutions, instead of actually acknowledging the situation. I'm just going to pander. I'm just going to do this fake virtue signaling, just absolute garbage to people.
I can understand that. There's a reason why people want us to make sure that we have their back. And we need to give people power back. We need to make sure that we give them ways that they can make sure that they can have ends meet. And so we're doing so through the dental care program. We're doing so through the pharmacare program. We're doing so through the child care program. We have a very different way of supporting Canadians.
Which, by the way, all those measures seem to be at a point where it's just going to lead to a graveyard. The whole pharmacare, dental care, $10 a day child care that they implement sound like good policies. All honestly, they sound like good functioning policies that I'm sure people in the Netherlands take advantage of. But given the factor that most people can't even afford food, let alone worried about their teeth or childcare or anything like that, I don't see this at all presenting itself for a pass. I don't see this at all resulting in actually implementing it into law. And I know that for a fact because a lot of these parties, liberals, conservatives, they're brought to you by corporate oligarchs, donors that definitely don't want to see $10 a day childcare. They definitely don't want to see nationwide dental care, because these lobby firms want to destroy that as much as possible so they can extract more and get more out of Canadians. And these measures, it's not going to pass considering the other measures that aren't being placed to meet the needs of right now Canadians when it comes to, inflation, when it comes to the cost of living. Like, maybe worry about those things before you get on to the next hurdle. That's the big thing. That's why people are concerned about. It's like the Maslow hierarchy of needs. If people aren't able to feed themselves, if people are starving in the streets and hunger and cold because they're in a tent and they can't get nourishment, they're not going to care about LGBTQ issues. They're not going to care about transgender rights. They're concerned about survival. They're concerned at this point is making sure they survive the next day. And considering people like her who've been sitting on her throne hasn't done anything to just deal with that at this point, of course, this is just all BS. This is just all pandering. This is just all just empty gestures, empty platitudes to make it sound good. Well, if you keep us in power, we're gonna, do our best to kind of get some karma. And yeah, I don't see it working out.
Than the state of America has with supporting the
But
West.
the MAGA comparisons, Minister, using Trump as a weapon against Mr. Poilievre, doesn't that need to stop now, given what's happened here in the United States?
I'll let my party take decisions on that. I'll deal with the relationship with the U.S. But what I can tell you, though, is that we absolutely need to make sure that we understand that people around the world are sending messages to governments, the governments in place. And so that's why I'm convinced that we will have a strong economic plan coming in this FES, this fall economic statement, and also with the budget, because people need support. And we've been there since 2015 and will continue to be there for them.
Have you been there, though? Have you been there, though? Because the record shows otherwise. The record shows otherwise. Mind you, this is the same exact party that thought, hey, these essential workers that followed the restrictions of the COVID pandemic were the most vaccinated group among all occupations. We need to seize their bank accounts because they questioned the narrative. They questioned big pharmaceuticals. How are you going to try to swing up and regain that support, knowing that was the case, knowing that you deliberately, single-handedly shut down the finances of individual Canadians, that you and your alignment with big banks are deliberately changing the individuality and the sovereignty of people's finances, that now you want to push, digital currency, these CBDCs, and digital IDs to control and manipulate that. How are you going to gain respect and response from the general public when you do that? When you're infested with those kind of measures? And she knows that she's in panic. That's why she can't come to an actual solution or a response that is relatable to Canadians, but she's going to go and pander and say, oh, I feel so bad for the people. I went to a store in Montreal and butter is $9. At least she's more coherent than Joe Scarborough. Let's just say that. When he was so confused, butter is $7. I wasn't informed that. That's not what the help had told me. I should fire my housekeeper for not informing me on that. That's the kind of arrogant response you get from corporate media stenographers and stooges like him. But also, and here's another big factor in this, is because of all the censorship tactics and because of what people saw in the surge of X when it came to Trump, X becomes Canada's #1 news app in the App Store. So now they are petrified. They are petrified because they're losing control of the narrative. They're losing control of convincing voters. They're losing their base. There's a lot of more people that have voted Liberal their whole life that are going towards Conservatives because the Liberal Party of Justin Trudeau, no longer even liberal. It's just authoritarian measures. It's dictatorship-like, if you will. And now you have this. Now you have X being the #1 source for news of Canada. because they tried to do tactics with C-18. They tried to block, they were trying to, fester up Facebook to pay Canadian journalists for posting their content. And what did that give? It gave a blockade for Facebook to not allow Canadians to share news content. So people can't go onto Facebook, they can't go onto Instagram, and they can't go to a lot of outlets on the internet to find news. But Elon Musk didn't cave to that. Elon Musk said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to still provide information. We're going to at least try to be somewhat of a free speech doctrine, even though Elon Musk is questionable to that. And this is what you get. Now you got people in America and Canadians that are disappointed at their government talking to one another. They're sharing ideas. They're sharing compassion towards another. And that scares a lot of the ruling class and people like Chrystia Freeland and Melanie Joly and Justin Trudeau, who have spent this whole time trying to put their hands on the narrative and take control of it, and they're losing control the more these measures come out. Because of stuff like this, because Elon Musk didn't pander to their stupid suggestion that social media needs to pay up for these Canadian journalists. And it didn't even go to Canadian journalists. The whole measure was to restrict Canadians from witnessing news articles on social media. That was the whole purpose of it. It had nothing to do, no intent of helping journalists on social media. So they're in panic. They definitely see the turmoil that Trump presidency puts on them. And I could see, we're less than a year now of us going to the polls, of us going and casting our ballots. And I could see a lot of, just outright lies and misinformation and just downright, empty gestures and platitudes from this time on. Just try to cover up the distractions, cover up the scandals, cover up the just missteps and just the absolute atrocities they've done to these people, to Canada. And it's not going to be a winning victory for them. Let's just say that. They know that their time is slowly coming to an end.